yesterday, we left off talking about like the oral cavity and the tongue and the structures attached to the tongue. So, for example, on the surface of your tongue, what are those projections called? Papillae. Can you say papillae? Papillae. There are different kinds of papillae. Today I'm going to show you some things that could go wrong with the papillae on the tongue. So, for example, the surface of your tongue is supposed to have papillae all over the place, even all the way back there. Except there are some disorders where their tongues only grow papillae in certain spots. And other spots will be just completely smooth, and it'll have this like reddish texture looking texture to it, and it looks like it hurts, but supposedly it doesn't affect them at all. So C or E is actually kind of cool looking, right? That little curly formation. B and C look like, man, does that hurt? But apparently, supposedly, these people say it doesn't hurt. It is sensitive. Their tongues are more sensitive to spicy food. But I was like, most people are sensitive to spicy food, so but it's cool because right here, currently, there are no papillae. None here, none here, none here. And there are papillae here. The cool thing is that this area can grow papillae over time, and these papillae might die off. And so their pattern can change throughout their lives. So it's not going to be like this forever. So it's kind of neat. And it's called geographic tongue because the first person who decided to name it said it looked like a map. I don't see it. Yeah, okay. Anyways, other things that can happen to your tongue. Warning, the next image is slightly graphic. You can get oral candidiasis. Okay, so oral candidiasis is also commonly known as thrush. So when you add things in your notes from lecture that aren't in your notes yet, you might want to use a different colored pen or a different pencil so that you can identify it easier as something to be covered in class.
Can we say thrush?
Thrush. Thrush. Heard of it? Anybody? No? Okay. So remember yesterday when I said you have bacteria in your mouth?
Yeah.
How much bacteria?
A lot.
A lot. Yeah, 20 billion. I forgot to mention there's also fungus hanging out in your mouth. And a low number, very little, doesn't affect you usually. However, if you have too much fungus, then it develops thrush. So all this white stuff on their tongue is actually fungus growing. Indeed.
Delicious.
Yes, yes. And how does this happen? This actually might have happened to some of you before. Maybe you weren't sure what it was. But the fungal population is kept pretty low thanks to some of the good bacteria in your mouth. Except, let's say you get really, really sick and the doctor gives you some antibiotics. The antibiotics come in, they kill all the bacteria that's making you sick, and then it also accidentally kills off some of the good bacteria. And that good bacteria was keeping the fungal population low. Now that there's no more good bacteria, the fungus population kind of explodes and starts taking over your tongue. And then you try to scrape it off. And then it goes away. But then it comes back. Then you try to scrape it off again. So it goes away. And then it comes back. So you have to go to the doctor. And what they can do is they can actually give you an antifungal pill. And it'll just die off. Or you can get like some antifungal mouthwash and it'll go away. There. Alright, and the next image, apparently people don't like this image, but I'll just preface it with it does not hurt the person to have a fissured tongue. Okay, so some of you have like a little like crack either in the center of your tongue or maybe to the sides of your tongue, but a fissured tongue isn't like cuts. They're kind of like, you know, the wrinkles that you get on your face. It's just like wrinkles on your tongue. So it doesn't actually hurt them. They're not cuts. People were like, does it burn when they eat like lemons and sour things? And I'm like, what? No. It's not open wounds. It's just bumps and grooves. Okay. And people with fissured tongues, no idea what causes it. No idea why it happens to certain people, mostly males more than females. It's just kind of one of those things that happen. Could this be bad? Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah.
Food could get stuck in it. Right? Bacteria can start growing in those colonies. So, yeah. So it's not terrible. Anyways, moving on. This is lecture number 2 officially. Teeth. Are teeth considered as bone?
No.
No, they're better. They're harder than bone. They're made up of slightly different structures. But a lot of people were saying, well, then why do people chip their teeth easier than they break their bones? If teeth is supposed to be harder. Your teeth isn't protected by layers and layers of things. Your teeth are exposed to a lot, and they go through a lot. Okay? So it's easier for them to chip or break. But they are technically harder than bone. All right, so throughout a mammal's entire lifetime, there's two sets of teeth. You have your baby teeth or deciduous teeth, and then you also have your permanent or secondary teeth. These are your adult teeth. Most of you probably have your secondary teeth at this point. Does anybody still have baby teeth? And that's okay. You have till 25 or else something's wrong, okay? And once you have your nice adult teeth, if you ever go play tennis and someone accidentally smacks you with a tennis racket and you break that tooth, that's it. There's no new one that's gonna grow. And then you have to go get a fake one, which is fine because it'll probably be prettier than yours. So don't break your teeth. Take care of them. Are there any questions about the difference? Okay, yeah.
How come there's a lot less baby teeth?
Not sure. One, it wouldn't make sense to have more teeth because you're kind of small and your jaws are kind of small and there wouldn't be enough space for the teeth in the first place. So you would have really, really small but a lot of teeth. That'd be pretty frightening. Evolutionarily, I guess it wouldn't really make sense because babies don't really eat a lot of solid foods in the first place. Yeah, a lot of milk, a lot of soft things. Yeah.
So when the secondary teeth come in, how do they just knock out the primary teeth?
Yeah. So let's say this is a row of deciduous teeth. Then if you've seen the picture in the book, there's literally a second layer of teeth, and as these ones develop and get larger, they get pushed upward, and as they get pushed upward, these ones get pushed out. Usually, okay. There are definitely some situations where the deciduous teeth come out before the secondary teeth are even ready, and that's you just kind of hang around and wait for nothing to happen. I know a student in the last period, one of their incisors just never grew in, lost a baby one, never had another one, and they just have a gap there. So that leaves the question, how did that first one get pushed out? Yeah.
My breast members are others too, is permanent teeth glue behind the primary tooth?
And then the deciduous one fall out?
No, it was still there.
They're both still there?
Yeah, we did. Well, we went to the dentist and I don't know.
Huh. There's a lot of weird things with teeth. Someone said their sister had a floating tooth right here.
I know someone that has a tooth that comes out of their gum, but it's two permanent teeth right there.
Oh, the number is proper and then they have an additional one?
Yeah.
My sister has one too, actually.
That's my aunt.
Like rows of teeth. Very interesting. Very strange. Yes.
It actually had a tooth that grew weird and grew up over this one.
And then they removed it?
No, it's right there.
Oh, alright. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things that can happen with teeth, and we only talk about what's supposed to be on average, normal. But yeah, lots of crazy things. Yeah.
What happens to the nerve of the primary teeth? Once your tooth falls out and your second tooth goes into it, what happens to the nerve that sits on top of it?
So from what I understand, it dies off. Dribbles out.
Disintegrates?
Yeah.
I don't know, I said the book called reabsorbs or something like that. Is it eating it? It's eating?
Not eating it, repurposing.
Yeah.
Reusing it, yeah. So talk about teeth pattern or growth of teeth pattern. Teeth growth pattern, there we go. If you've ever seen a baby, when it starts teething at first, which teeth grow in first? Usually the front teeth, right? And then it's really cute and all, and then they start teething, and these ones grow in, and then these ones grow in, and then these ones grow in. And then when you start losing the baby teeth, because the secondary ones are coming in, it's kind of cool, but you lose the teeth in the same order that you got them in. So then these ones start falling out first, and then these ones, and then usually these ones, and then finally the molars fall out, and then you get your secondary teeth. So speaking of molars and all those types or shapes of teeth, was there any question about numbers? Was there any you couldn't find, or are we okay with this? Good? Okay, so I'm going to show you guys an image, and we are going to name the types of teeth. However, the answer is at the bottom, so don't look at the bottom. Look at the top. Ready? Looking at the top. Name these teeth. Incisors. I've heard people pronounce it incisors all day. Whatever, as long as you can spell it, I don't care. Incisors. Shape? Flat, chiseled shape. If you don't know what a chisel is, you might want to just say flat. Okay. Function.
Tearing off.
Tearing, cutting. Good. Number total.
Or wait.
8. So we're talking about secondary teeth.
Okay.
Secondary. So this is a full grown adult here. So you would have 4 at the top and 4 at the bottom jaw. Okay? And then lateral to your incisors, what do you have here? These are your cuspids, commonly known as your canines. Whoa.
Vampire teeth.
Vampire teeth, except some people don't really have pointy ones. Function of cuspids. Tearing food. Lateral to the cuspids, we have the bicuspid shape. Flat, round on the sides, flat across the top. Function? Grinding. And finally, we have in the very back of the mouth, we have the molars shape. Flat function. Grinding, and on average, total number is 12. So they name the molars like the first, second, third, or primary, secondary, tertiary molars. So here's the first one, second one, third one. These third ones are known as the
Wisdom teeth.
wisdom teeth, which for an adult like me, I'm an adult, and I have all 4 teeth removed, or wisdom teeth removed. How many teeth do I have left?
28.
I have 28. 28. Okay. 32 minus 4 is 28. So that 32 number is pretty misleading. You don't have 32 teeth, but if you get your wisdom teeth removed, you only have 28. And the cooler thing is that some people don't have 4 wisdom teeth. Some people have 0. Some people have 1. Some people have 2. Some people have 3. And some people have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Janita?
So like, if like your wisdom teeth don't hurt you, you want to get them removed, right?
True. Yes. I had an anthropology professor in college who did not get hers removed when they came out when she was in her 20s. And then when she was in her mid-50s, they started irritating her and like hurting.
Oh.
So then she had to get them removed in her 50s.
That sucks.
But it's crazy because she showed up to work the next day and like she looked perfectly normal. Because you know some people after they get their wisdom teeth removed, it's like you like don't even recognize them. This lady, she came back, she's like, yeah, my dentist is really good, and I was like, what? So
Does age make it better then? Like,
no, that absolutely does not make sense because when you're younger, your cells regenerate faster.
Yeah, that's weird.
So it really depends on the person. I think depends on the person.
Maybe she didn't
Yeah,
get
she
it.
got it.
Maybe she just took the day off. And but yeah, wisdom teeth, the numbers can vary so much. Someone said their dentist told them for every person that has only 3 wisdom teeth, there's someone that has 5. Okay? And the problem with wisdom teeth is when they grow in last. If you're growing in last, there's not a lot of space left for you. And so if you really want to grow in, you got to push your way through. You got to start crowding all the other teeth. But if there's literally no more space for you, then you're going to start growing sideways and backwards in any direction possible to make yourself fit in. Wisdom teeth. So needy, right? So if you don't get yours removed as a teenager, young adult, potentially maybe you're one of those cool people who will never grow them. Or maybe you're one of those cool people who it'll never bother you. But I guess we'll find out in like a couple decades. Yeah.
Like I heard there was like a world record of a dude having like 52 numbers of teeth.
You know, someone was trying to tell me that earlier today too, and I kind of believe it. There's a lot of crazy things that can go on in the human body. Very crowded. Anyways, you guys have this super beautiful drawing? Most of you anyways? With labels?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the labels real quick and make sure you have a description for each label. What kind of tooth is this, do you think? Canine, also known as cuspid. I think we should say canine cuspid from now on, just to play it safe. What kind of tooth? Canine cuspid. Tooth?
Molars.
Molar, very good at reading.
Molar where?
All right, so I wanted to use this picture because it's exactly the same as this one, maybe a little bit nicer, just a little bit. But I wanted to point out that for canine cuspids and incisors, they have one root, whereas for molars and premolars, they usually have roots that diverge. So this is the one you usually see in drawings and stuff. And you'll notice that it's all the same parts as the other teeth. Okay, the only difference is the roots split up. So on your drawing, you should have labels, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add like little descriptions to some of your labels. So for example, your label for crown, I want you to describe what is the crown of the tooth. For example, what is the crown of the tooth?
The part that's visible.
The visible part, the part that's above the gums. Consequently, how would you describe the root,
Under the
the part under the gums? How would you describe enamel,
protective cover.
Covers the crown.
protective covering of crown, hardest part of body, hardest structure in body, covers the crown, or outermost layer of the crown?
Is it possible to regrow enamel?
That's why you gotta take care of it while you can. So if enamel is the outermost layer of the crown, what is the outermost layer of the root called?
Cement.
Cement. Very good. All right.
Wait, in our book it says cementum.
It's either spelled cementum, cementa, or cement. Go crazy. Pick one, anyone. It's kind of like dentin. Spelled dentin, dentine, whatever. Same. All right. So if enamel is outermost layer of crown, then cement or cementum is outermost layer of the root. What is the second layer in? Dentin. So you might want to write dentin, second layer in. It is also very hard. Also one of the hardest structures in the body. And then on the inside of your tooth, each tooth, is all this soft tissue that has blood vessels and nerves. What do we call all this soft tissue? Pulp. Pulp is probably a really weird word to describe this, but pulp would be all the soft tissue, blood vessels, nerves inside of the teeth. The area the pulp occupies in the crown is called the pulp cavity, and the area that the pulp occupies in the root is called the root canal. So root canal and pulp cavity are areas full of pulp. They're just different locations. So pulp cavity, pulp-filled area of crown, root canal, pulp-filled cavity of root.
Do we need to know what the periodontal ligament is?
You should probably know that. So in this drawing, you don't have periodontal ligaments. It's in your drawing, it should have been those little lines. The function of the periodontal ligaments is to anchor the teeth to the gums. So the periodontal ligaments anchors teeth to gums. So you're supposed to brush at least twice a day for at least 2.5, 3 minutes. But if you brush for 6 minutes straight, that seems to add up, right? I got all the minutes in, I'm good to go. Except the problem is you're supposed to brush after you eat, because after you eat, food gets stuck in your teeth, and that's when you really want to brush. So if you just brush 6 minutes in the morning and then you eat a whole bunch of stuff throughout the day, and you don't brush at the end of the day, then what was the point even, right? And the crazy thing is, if you actually overbrush, this is what could happen. So I don't know if you guys noticed, this person's teeth look like super long, and their tooth isn't super long. It's because their gums are receding. You're basically attacking the gums for 6 minutes every morning with a toothbrush. Of course, it's going to start running backwards. Like, who wants to put up with that kind of torture, right? So if you overbrush, or if you use a really hard toothbrush, your gums could potentially start receding. And that seems okay. It looks kind of cool, right? You have really long teeth. Except if you don't have gums, then what's going to hold onto your teeth? They're going to start falling out, right?
Why do your gums bleed when you brush your teeth? Like, I heard it's because of gum disease, but, like, I don't know if that's true or not.
That could indicate gum disease. So if you aren't used to flossing and brushing the first few times you do it and it starts bleeding, that's actually kind of normal. But if it bleeds a lot and it continues to bleed every single time you floss and brush, that could mean really sensitive gums. You might want to try using a softer toothbrush. Like, you know how the toothbrush on the package says, like, extra soft, soft, medium, hard? You're actually supposed to, most adults are supposed to use a soft But there are some people with sensitive gums, you can use like an extra soft.
Yeah, because mine are hecka sensitive. Like every time I brush, like they bleed, but not a lot. But like
A little bit, yeah. So you want to make sure you use an extra soft, and then you might want to talk to a dentist about it. But it doesn't indicate like you will have a gum disorder.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I have a question? Riley?
No.
Okay. So this is what happens if you brush too much. On the other hand, if you don't brush enough, what do you get? Plaque buildup
Oh, nice.
on the left. And someone's like, well, why are their teeth so white? It's like, I don't know, Photoshop. So all this icky yellow stuff is what we call plaque. What is plaque exactly? Bacteria. Just bacteria hanging out in its own sticky residue on your teeth. Okay? So you should probably add somewhere that plaque is just bacteria. Now, why would it be bad to have bacteria hanging out on your teeth? So every time you eat food, sugars come into your mouth. You break down the sugar for energy, so does the bacteria. So bacteria actually breaks down sugar that you're eating. So they're like eating your seconds, basically. And they break down the sugar. When you break down sugar, once you're done breaking down the sugar, you poop. Bacteria, they do something similar. They produce a waste product. They actually produce acid after they eat the sugar, and the acid starts wearing away or corroding your enamel. And someone asked earlier, if enamel is broken down, will it come back? No. So it starts breaking away at your enamel, and then underneath the enamel, what layer do we have? Dentin. After you start corroding the enamel, you get to the dentin, start corroding at the dentin. And once you have this little hole in your tooth because of all these bacteria eating away or like corroding all of your teeth, this little hole is called a cavity. The cavity is called a cavity. Uh-oh, that's no good. And then the worst part is if you leave a cavity, a hole that exposes the nerves and the soft tissue, that means bacteria can get into the cavity and start infecting the root. So this could lead to infection of roots. If bacteria get all up in those cavities. Infection of the roots lead to pain and a lot of discomfort. And the way they fix this is if your roots are infected, you just remove all the roots and then it can't get infected anymore. So that's called the root canal process. Root canal, I don't know if you want to call it surgery, procedure, process, removal. I'm just going to write surgery. Because if you don't have any roots, they can't get infected. Right? So simple. Yeah.
But can't the tooth still what's the word? Not degrade, like
Keep breaking down.
yeah, like you know how when you have like a cavity and then it keeps on, I don't have the word, like the whole, because I have like a really big hole in my tooth.
And then it just keeps breaking down.
Yeah, like keeps like I used to have like a really small hole and then I didn't get it done until like last month, I don't know, like 3 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And now it's like a really big hole because I just got the root canal done, but I still have to get the crown.
You have to get a crown, right? To like cover it up to make sure it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could definitely keep going. It depends on how bad the situation is. Anyways, plaque is the initial sticky bacteria stage, and then if you leave it, you don't scrape it off. So if you try to brush and you try to floss, and it still doesn't come off, what should you do? Whoa. You just use your nails, scrape at it, or use like something a little bit harder to like scrape at it without damaging your gums.
Use a knife.
And then, I was thinking like a toothpick.
Yeah.
If you can't scrape it off, you leave it, especially behind your teeth, it's really hard to get to those spots. So if you leave it, it hardens into like almost like a cement. And that's when you get tartar. Tartar is just really hard plaque. And that's when you would have to go to the dentist. And if you leave it, it'll lead to even worse tartar and cavities. And this isn't that bad. Yeah. So this is actually, if you don't brush, you don't floss, you don't try to scrape away at the plaque, along with smoking, drinking coffee and sodas and eating candies, it'll just keep adding on and adding on and adding on. And it'll eventually lead to you having infected root canals. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys an animation of someone getting a root canal. I'm not showing you a real video just because when you watch a real-time video, you can't really tell what the dentist is doing. All you see is a tooth and things coming in and out of the tooth, so you can't tell. But in this animation, they explain it to you, or the process, in a cartoon format, suitable for all ages. Okay.
Endodontics is a specialized area of dentistry focused on treating disease or injury to the dental pulp. Endodontists are dental specialists with advanced training in root canal treatment. They are experts in saving your natural teeth using state-of-the-art technologies like microscopes and digital imaging to treat you quickly and comfortably. Let's take a step-by-step look at a modern root canal procedure. Here is a healthy tooth. Inside the tooth, under the white enamel, is a hard tissue called dentin. Inside the dentin is a soft tissue called pulp. The pulp contains the tooth's nerves and blood vessels. It extends from the crown of the tooth into the roots of your teeth. If the pulp becomes inflamed or infected, your endodontist will remove it, relieving your pain or discomfort. Here's how root canal treatment works. First, your endodontist will numb the tooth so that you won't feel anything during the procedure. A small shield isolates the tooth, keeping it dry and clean. An opening is made through the crown of the tooth and into the pulp chamber. Fluid is put in the canals to kill any bacteria and help rinse out debris. Then, the pulp is removed. Using small instruments, the endodontist carefully cleans and shapes the canals. After the space is cleaned and shaped, the endodontist fills and seals the root canals. In most cases, a temporary filling is placed to close the opening until you see your dentist. After your endodontist is finished, you must return to your dentist to have your tooth properly restored with a filling or crown. That protects the tooth and is important to ensure the success of your root canal treatment. A tooth that has had root canal treatment often lasts a lifetime, so you keep smiling with confidence.
All right, so I was watching a YouTube video of someone actually getting a root canal. He was like filming it like this. And it was a terrible video, but it was in HD, and it was kind of cool. The part where they were like removing the root. I don't know if you guys noticed that, where they stuck a thing in and they're like shaping the roots. They were literally using like something to pick out all the nerves and the blood vessels and the pulp in that area. So it's almost like, you guys, the drain, snake the drain thing, where you shove it into the drain and then you pull it out. It's like all this gunk in here. Yeah, so the guy like shoved it in and like swirling around and he pulled it out and you see this little string thing on it, or string looking thing. And he's like, oh look, there's your nerve hanging out on the peg. And it's just like, you don't want roots to get infected, just drag it all out and then it won't get infected. And I was like, who comes up with these things? Anyways, let's do a little bit of a kind of review. Giant tooth. I'm going to point out parts and I'm going to have you guys name it. Ready? Name? Name?
Root.
Root. If I open it up. Innermost layer? Sorry, outermost layer? Enamel. Second layer? This layer right here? Cementum. Okay. All of this stuff is considered as pulp. In this area, this area right here specifically is called the pulp cavity. And then the pulp in this area is root canal. Okay. Root canal, pulp cavity, pulp. Any questions so far? What do we call the string things that attach the tooth to the gums? Periodontal ligaments. And what is the official name of the gums? Gingivitis. Gingivitis is a disorder. At the top of the tooth, notice that they have this little opening right here. Okay. And if we take a look at it, what's wrong with this person's tooth? Cavity, or student vandalized it, can't tell. All right, so now we're going to name, all right, lateral to